Being a sugar baby for the first time. I had zero experience with this whole being spoiled thing. My sugar daddy asked me what I wanted. I decided to go big and asked for a car. He smirked and said, "What do you want? A Maserati or a Ferrari?" I said a Yamaha scooter. He went completely silent. He handed me his credit card to teach me how to spend money properly. I immediately spent $12.80 on a 4-pack of underwear. This caused the bank to call him asking if his card had been stolen. My sugar daddy completely lost it. Didn't anyone tell you that spending money like crazy is supposed to be a sugar baby's best quality? Even if you spent money every single second, you couldn't spend it faster than I make it. So please act more spoiled and demanding. I've got you covered for everything. Originally, Mr. Johnson had his eye on my sister. If she agreed, $50 million would be transferred to my dad's account immediately. But that same night, my sister took all the cash from our house and ran away. On my electric scooter. I stared at the empty charging port panicking. We only had a few $1,000s in cash. How far could she get with that? If she had told me beforehand, I could have helped her borrow more money. My dad showed up and we were both running around in circles panicking. Because the debt collectors were coming tomorrow. If they didn't see the money, my dad would be torn apart piece by piece. My dad was a gambling addict. But people always said he was lucky just because my sister and I were born with decent looks. So he looked at me with calculating eyes. You and your sister look almost identical. These rich guys usually swing both ways. Anyway, if I send you over there, Mr. Johnson won't have any complaints. It's not your first time with a man anyway. So don't act all innocent. The first man my dad was talking about was actually my first boyfriend. Treated me really well, but never mind. I don't want to talk about it. I didn't refuse my dad's plan. Knowing his personality, if I said no, he'd probably drag those debt collectors to hunt down my sister. Wherever she went. She hadn't gotten far yet. She could be found like this. Don't be dramatic. I kept remembering my dad's words. So when Mr. Johnson kissed me so hard my lips bled, I didn't cry. When he kept the lights on and wouldn't let me cover my eyes, I didn't cry. Even when my whole body hurt like I was being torn in half, I held back my tears. Fortunately, Mr. Johnson didn't seem to mind that I was replacing my sister as a sugar baby. That was quietly a relief. Later that night, Mr. Johnson was satisfied and leaning against the headboard smoking. "You're quite obedient, not making a sound. Don't you want to ask me for something?" I was exhausted and could barely keep my eyes open. I drowsily remembered my little scooter that had been taken away. Mr. Johnson lived in a gated community. I couldn't just walk out to buy food in the future. Plus, I'd read in novels that these rich guys always get bored quickly. His interest in me would last a month at most. I had to get something valuable out of this. So I forced myself to stay awake and said, "I want a car." He laughed coldly, his eyes immediately filling with mockery. He grabbed my chin. With that, I knew it'd own a Maserati or a Ferrari. I looked up and answered firmly, "A Yamaha scooter, Mr. Johnson." After thinking about it, I added, "I want a used one. The new electric scooters are too slow." "Now, Mr. Johnson." When he still didn't respond, I thought maybe this rich guy had never seen a small scooter. So I continued explaining. "An electric scooter. Do you know what an electric scooter is? It's a two-wheeled vehicle where you twist the handle and it goes zoom, zoom, forward." Mr. Johnson suddenly smiled in a very strange way. "One electric scooter, you're sure?" Of course, I had thought this through carefully. Everything else wasn't practical. Getting a scooter meant that when Mr. Johnson dumped me later, I could still use it for food delivery. "I'm sure. Thank you, Mr. Johnson." I leaned up and kissed his cheek. I learned this from a sugar baby handbook. It said after you get something, you should kiss first and then something. I couldn't quite remember what came next. Whatever, this was fine. I was so tired and sleepy after the kiss. I fell into a deep sleep without realizing it. When I woke up the next day, Mr. Johnson was already gone. There was a new phone on the nightstand. It only had Mr. Johnson's contact information and nothing else. Just then, the phone dinged. "Text me when you wake up." I didn't dare delay. "Hello, boss. I'm awake. Mr. Johnson. 50 million transferred. Car is outside. Phone has my credit card linked. Buy whatever you want. Don't text me unless necessary. I'm busy, but if you really miss me, you can text. I'll reply when I have time." So generous. These days, any boss who doesn't withhold wages is a good boss. "Thank you, boss." I carefully selected a blooming lotus flower, animated emoji and sent it. Mr. Johnson was silent for a long time. Finally, he just replied with a mem. I was about to get up and check out my new scooter outside. But I felt a cool breeze down there. And quickly pulled the covers back up. I remembered now yesterday. Mr. Johnson was in a hurry and tore my underwear. I only had one spare pair in my suitcase. Now, underwear crisis. I quickly opened the shopping app. And found a store that could deliver the same day. $12.80 for 4 pairs with color options. Perfect. I placed the order happily. Less than a minute later, Mr. Johnson texted again. Question mark, why is the bank calling asking if my card was stolen? What did you buy? A building or a yacht? That's fine too, but those things need staff. Send me the details and I'll get you a butler. I silently sent him a screenshot of my underwear order. Wouldn't getting a butler for underwear be a bit too extravagant? Mr. Johnson went quiet. Oh, no. The sugar daddy was angry. I quickly sent an explanation. I only bought them because you tore mine yesterday. Sorry, Mr. Johnson. Don't apologize. I did it on purpose. If you're in a hurry, you can wear mine for now. I thought about it. Yours would be too big. They'd be loose on me. Mr. Johnson. I'm still at work. Don't say things like that. Be good. We'll talk when I get home, huh? I didn't understand. Mr. Johnson continued. Never mind. I'm not waiting. Come to the office now. I want to eat. Rich people have weird moods. But whatever. He's the sugar daddy who gave me the scooter. Okay, send me the address. I'll ride my new scooter over. Mr. Johnson, no need. The car will bring you here. A self-driving scooter. Fancy food delivery would be so much easier in the future. Just thinking about it got me excited. I quickly got up and got ready. When I reached the door, I was stunned. There was no little scooter anywhere. Only a luxury van waiting for me outside. I walked around the car looking for my scooter. I didn't find it anywhere. Where's my Yamaha? Did it get towed for illegal parking? Suddenly, a man in a sharp suit got out of the driver's seat. He bowed politely. Hello, sir. My name is Adam. You can also call me by my nickname, Yamaha. That sneaky businessman, he definitely figured out that I'd want to take the scooter with me later. He deliberately gave me a luxury car and driver that I couldn't take. Cheeky businessman, but I had to admit. This car was definitely more comfortable than a little scooter. Still, I felt like I didn't deserve all this. I thanked the driver multiple times before getting out. The receptionist led me to Mr. Johnson's office. Before I could even say hello, boss. Overwhelming kisses came crashing down. Mr. Johnson pressed me against the door. The metal door panel hitting my back painfully. Before I could cry out in pain. Mr. Johnson's mouth blocked the sound. He kissed me fiercely and roughly. Like he wanted to devour me completely. Seriously, he wanted payback like this for $12? I didn't dare make a sound. I just closed my eyes and waited for this one-sided assault to end. I don't know how much time passed. My brain was foggy and my consciousness was blurry. Mr. Johnson finally let go. Didn't anyone tell you that spending money like crazy is supposed to be a sugar baby's best quality? Even if you spent money every single second. Couldn't spend it faster than I make it. So please act more spoiled and demanding. I've got you covered for everything. When he said this, his eyes were dark and intense. Filled with desire so thick you could cut it. I was scared. I quickly tried to change the subject. Food. Let's eat first. But when he heard this, smile deepened. I am eating. I wasn't stupid. I completely understood what Mr. Johnson meant. That day, I didn't leave Mr. Johnson's office until evening. The driver kept glancing at me through the rearview mirror. Embarrassed and ashamed, I just kept my head down lower. For revenge, I decided to spend big. So I pulled out my phone and ordered takeout worth $35. Plus a $6 delivery fee. And I didn't use any discount coupons. Sneaky businessman. Just wait until I spend all your money. The luxury van glided through the evening traffic with the silent, predatory grace of a shark. In the back seat, I clutched my phone like a shield, staring intensely at the delivery tracking map. The little scooter icon representing the delivery guy was taking a suspiciously long route. I frowned. If he didn't deliver the food within the estimated window, I could technically claim a $3 late delivery voucher. But then, again, I had specifically set out to ruin Mr. Johnson's finances tonight. Claiming a voucher would defeat the purpose of my grand financial revenge. No, I thought, hardening my resolve. Let him bear the full, crushing weight of a $41 financial blow. That'll teach him to make my back ache against his office door. Beside me, Adam, the driver who had inherited the legal name of my dream scooter, watched me through the rearview mirror. His expression was a masterpiece of professional neutrality, though his eyes lingered briefly on my Defensive posture. Miss, Adam said, his voice smooth and entirely devoid of judgment. Mr. Johnson has instructed me to inform you that if you prefer, we can stop at Le Petit Chateau's for a proper dinner. He has a private table permanently reserved. There. No thank you, Yamaha, I said firmly, using his nickname to assert my dominance. I have already committed to a culinary experience. It is arriving in exactly 7 minutes. Understood, Mississippi. When we arrived at Mr. Johnson's private villa, a sprawling, glass and steel monstrosity nestled in a gated community that looked like it belonged to a tech billionaire who hated neighbors, the delivery driver was already waiting at the security gate. He looked terrified, flanked by 2 towering guards in tailored suits who were treating a plastic bag of spicy braised chicken claws as if it were a bomb. I rolled down the window of the luxury van. That's mine, I called out. The delivery guy looked at me, then at the $500,000 van, then at Adam's sharp suit. He handed over the bag with a trembling hand. Enjoy your meal, he whispered, before turning his electric scooter around and speeding off. I looked at his scooter longingly. It was a beautiful, dinged-up little thing. It had character. It had a basket in the front. Inside the villa, the sheer scale of the place made me feel like an insect. The marble floors were so polished I could see my own reflection, which currently looked exhausted, slightly disheveled, and deeply suspicious. I sat on the edge of a massive, cream-colored Italian leather sofa that probably cost more than my father's entire gambling debt, set my plastic takeout box on the pristine glass coffee table, and dug in. I ate the braised chicken claws with gusto, spit the bones onto a paper napkin, and washed it down with a lukewarm can of herbal tea. Just as I was finishing the 3rd claw, my new phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with Mr. Johnson's name. My heart did a tiny, involuntary skip. I wiped my greasy fingers on a tissue and slid the bar to answer. Hello, boss, I said, trying to sound like a professional employee who was currently off the clock. There was a pause on the other end. I could hear the faint, ambient rustle of paper, followed by the soft click of a lighter. He was smoking again. $41, Mr. Johnson's voice rumbled through the speaker, low and dry. Is this your idea of a declaration of war? I stiffened, puffing out my chest. I didn't use a single coupon, Mr. Johnson. And I paid for the premium delivery insurance. If you are experiencing cash flow issues, you should have warned me beforehand. A low, vibrating sound came from the receiver. It took me a second to realize he was laughing. It wasn't his cold, mocking laugh from the night before, but something quieter, almost helpless. A premium delivery insurance, he repeated. You really know how to strike where it hurts. I'm currently looking at the banking alert. I had my financial team run a projection. At your current rate of spending, you will successfully bankrupt me in approximately 450,000 years. I may have to liquidate some assets. I knew it, I muttered. You're just putting on a brave face. Rich people always have liquidity issues. Be good, he said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming suddenly intimate. The playfulness vanished, replaced by that heavy, possessive warmth that made my ears burn. Did you eat well? Yes, I said, suddenly feeling very small on the giant sofa. The chicken claws were very spicy. Good. Rest up. I have a meeting with some investors from Zurich tomorrow morning, but I'll be back by afternoon. I've instructed Yamaha to take you somewhere. Where? I asked guardedly. To learn how to use a credit card, he said. If I see another transaction under $50 on my statement, I'm going to assume you're mocking my earning potential. And you know how I handle insubordination. My mind immediately flashed to the metal office door, his hands gripping my waist, and the fierce, breathless heat of his mouth. My lips still felt slightly swollen. I'll spend money, I blurted out, panic rising in my throat. I'll spend so much money. You'll see. We'll see, he murmured. Go to sleep. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked down at the remaining chicken claws. Suddenly, they didn't look as appetizing. I cleaned up the table, threw the trash into a bin that looked like it belonged in a modern art museum, and crept up the stairs to the massive master bedroom. The bed was huge, smelling faintly of cedar and his expensive cologne. I wrapped myself in the heavy silk duvet, feeling like an imposter in a castle. Just 1 month, I reminded myself as I closed my eyes. That's how long these rich guys stay interested. 30 days. If I can just survive 30 days, I'll have enough savings to live comfortably, buy a fleet of used scooters, and maybe Start a small logistics business. I can do this. The next morning, Adam was waiting for me at the entrance of the villa at precisely 9 o'clock. He was holding a small, silver tray. On it lay a sleek, black metal card with no numbers on the front, just a stylized, minimalist logo of a private Swiss bank. Mr. Johnson's secondary black card, Adam announced. There is no preset spending limit. Mr. Johnson's only instruction is that if you return to the villa with this card unused, I am fired. I stared at the card, then at Adam's incredibly earnest, polite face. Fired? I squeaked. But you're a very good driver, Yamaha. You didn't even hit that stray cat on the driveway this morning. Thank you, Mississippi. I do my best. But Mr. Johnson is a man of his word. If you do not spend at least 6 figures today, I will be seeking employment at a local car wash by nightfall. This was psychological warfare. Mr. Johnson knew my weakness. I couldn't bear to see innocent people suffer because of my financial stubbornness. He was holding my driver's livelihood hostage. Fine, I gritted my teeth, snatching the black card from the tray. Get in the van, Yamaha. We are going to the mall. I am going to ruin him. 30 minutes later, we arrived at the city's most exclusive luxury shopping district. It wasn't a normal mall, it was an outdoor promenade of marble-fronted flagship stores where you had to press a buzzer just to be let in. I marched into a French luxury boutique that was famous for its leather goods. The air inside smelled like money, jasmine, and snobbery. A sales associate in a perfectly tailored suit glided toward me, his eyes doing a quick, practiced sweep of my canvas sneakers and oversized t-shirt. His polite smile faltered slightly. Welcome, he said, his tone just a fraction too cool. Are we looking for a gift today, or perhaps, browsing? I didn't like his tone. It reminded me of the debt collectors who used to sneer at our cramped apartment. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the heavy black metal card, and let it drop onto the glass display counter with a loud, satisfying clink. The sales associate's eyes darted down. His posture instantly shifted. It was like watching a marionette whose strings had suddenly been pulled tight. His shoulders dropped, his smile widened by 3 inches, and his eyes practically sparkled with spiritual devotion. Ah. An absolute pleasure to have you, madam. My apologies, I didn't realize you were a member of our private client circle. Please, come sit in our VIP lounge. Can I offer you some champagne? Some imported sparkling water? I don't want water, I said, trying to look like a seasoned, demanding socialite. Show me your most expensive items. The ones that make absolutely no sense. Right away, madam. 5 minutes later, I was sitting on a velvet armchair while 3 separate associates laid out items on velvet trays. This is our limited edition alligator skin handbag, the lead associate whispered reverently, holding up a small, shiny green bag that looked like a compressed lizard. There are only 5 of these in the country. It is priced at $98,000. I gasped. $98,000? For a bag that can barely hold a thermos? Is it bulletproof? The associate blinked. No, but it is hand-stitched by 3rd generation artisans in France. If I drop it in a puddle, does it dissolve? I would strongly advise against dropping it in a puddle, madam. Then it's a scam, I declared. From the corner of my eye, I saw Adam standing near the entrance, looking at me with pleading, pathetic puppy dog eyes. He mouthing the words, my mortgage. Miss. I closed my eyes and sighed. Fine. I'll take it. But only because green is a very practical color for camouflage. Excellent choice, madam. The associate was practically vibrating with joy. What else do you have? I asked, determined to hit the 6-figure mark. Give me something completely useless. The associate scurried off and returned with a small, wooden box. Inside was a set of 6 silver-plated straws. These are our artisanal, hand-engraved reusable straws, he said proudly. A sustainable luxury statement. $6,500. $6,000 for metal tubes. I stared at him. Do they make water? Taste like juice? They have our logo engraved on the side, madam. I'll take 3 sets, I said, feeling a physical pain in my chest. $6,000. That could buy 48 used Yamaha scooters. I am burning money. I am a monster. When we finally left the boutique, Adam was carrying 3 massive, shiny paper bags. The total bill had come to $117,500. As soon as we got back to the van, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out. Mr. Johnson, better But a crocodile handbag and some straws? Are you planning to start a very expensive, very swamp-themed juice bar? I stared at the screen, my face turning red. I bought them to help Yamaha keep his job. You are a tyrant, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, Yamaha's job was never in danger. He has a 5-year contract. With a heavy severance package. But I appreciate your concern for my staff. Now, go buy something for yourself. Not a bag to show off, not straws to look green. Something you actually want. I stared at the text. Something I actually want? I looked out the window of the van. The city was bustling, filled with ordinary people running errands, rushing to work, living normal lives. I looked down at my hands. They were empty. I didn't want alligator bags. I didn't want silver straws. I tapped the screen. Can I buy whatever I want? Truly? Mr. Johnson, anything. I turned to Adam. Yamaha, change of plans. We're going to the wholesale district. 2 hours later, the luxury van was parked in a dusty, crowded wholesale market. On the outskirts of the city. The air here smelled of cardboard, cheap plastic, and diesel exhaust. It was my favorite place in the world. I marched into a warehouse that sold restaurant and cleaning supplies in bulk. Welcome, the owner, a middle-aged man with a pencil tucked behind his ear, called out. What can I get you? We have a sale on paper towels today. I want to buy, I said, pulling out the black metal card, your entire inventory of instant noodles. And those thick, insulated delivery backpacks. The big ones that keep food warm. The owner blinked, looking from my card to the giant luxury van parked outside, which was currently blocking 3 delivery trucks. All of them? Yes. And 5,000 heavy-duty raincoats. The yellow ones. Miss, Adam whispered from behind me, looking slightly bewildered. Are you planning to survive an apocalypse? No, I whispered back, my eyes shining with absolute, righteous fury. I am preparing for my future. And I am going to do some charity work while I'm at it. By the time we were done, I had spent $65,000 on bulk groceries, instant noodles, raincoats, and high-end delivery backpacks. I instructed the wholesale owner to deliver everything to a local community shelter and food bank that I used to visit when my dad had gambled away our grocery money. It was the most satisfying $65,000 I had ever spent. As we drove away, my phone buzzed again. Mr. Johnson, instant noodles? 5,000 raincoats? Are you preparing for a monsoon, or did you decide to become a savior of the working class? I smiled, feeling a genuine sense of victory. Both. And I feel great. If you don't like it, you can take your card back. There was a long pause. I waited, expecting him to be angry, or at least annoyed that I had used his black card for something so unglamorous. Then, the phone rang. I answered. Mr. Johnson? You are a very strange girl, he said, his voice quiet. There was no mockery in it this time. Just a strange, soft gravity that made my stomach do a slow, nervous flip. Most girls in your position would have bought diamonds. Or a condo in the city center. Diamonds can't feed you when you're broke, I said practically. And a condo has property taxes. Raincoats and instant noodles are real assets. Is that why you wanted the scooter? For security? Of course, I said. If you dump me next month, I can't drive a Maserati to deliver soup. The fuel cost alone would eat up my profits. But a Yamaha scooter? That's low maintenance. High efficiency. A heavy sigh came over the line. I am not going to dump you next month, Mr. Johnson said, his tone suddenly firm, almost growling. And stop talking about food delivery as if it's your calling in life. You're mine now. I don't share my things, and I certainly don't let them work delivery jobs. But no buts. I'm coming home early. The Zurich investors can wait. Yamaha, bring her back to the villa. Yes, sir, Adam said from the driver's seat, immediately changing lanes. I hung up, my hands trembling slightly. He's coming home early? My heart began to beat in a strange, erratic rhythm that had nothing to do with fear, and everything to do with the way my name sounded when he said it. When we returned to the villa, the atmosphere was different. The heavy glass doors were open, and the scent of expensive cigars drifted through the air. I walked into the living room, carrying my ridiculous French alligator bag. Mr. Johnson was sitting in a high-backed armchair. He had discarded his suit jacket, and his white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, rolling up his sleeves to reveal muscular, tanned forearms. He looked powerful, relaxed, and incredibly dangerous. But he wasn't alone. Sitting on the edge of the opposite sofa, looking sweating and miserable, was my Father. My heart instantly dropped into my stomach. The warmth I had felt during the car ride vanished, replaced by a cold, suffocating dread. Dad? I whispered. My dad jumped up, his eyes bloodshot, his clothes wrinkled. Oh. Lily. Thank God. You're here. He lunged toward me, but Adam quickly stepped in, placing a firm, warning hand on my dad's shoulder. My dad shrank back, looking terrified, but his eyes remained locked on me, filled with desperate, calculating greed. Lily, you have to help me, my dad stammered. Mr. Johnson, he transferred the 50 million. The debt is paid. But the interest, Lily. The loan. Sharks say the interest wasn't covered. I need another 5 million. Just 5 million. Please, tell Mr. Johnson to give it to me. You're his favorite now. Right? Look at that bag you're carrying. That's worth a fortune. I stared at him, feeling a deep, sickening sense of shame. This was my father. The man who had looked at me like a piece of meat, who had sent me to a stranger's bed without a second thought just to save his own skin. And now, he was back for more. I don't have $5 million, Dad, I said, my voice shaking. And I won't ask Mr. Johnson for a single penny. You ungrateful brat. My dad's face twisted in anger. I raised you. I gave you those looks. If it weren't for me, you'd be rotting in some factory. Your sister had the right idea, she took the cash and ran. But you're still here, living like a queen, and you won't even help your own father? That's enough, a voice cut through the room. It wasn't loud, but the sheer, icy authority in Mr. Johnson's voice made the entire room go silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. Mr. Johnson stood up slowly. He walked over to me, his boots clicking softly on the marble. He didn't look at my father. He only looked at me. He reached out, his large, warm hand cupping my cheek. His thumb gently brushed against my lower lip, where the small cut from yesterday had almost healed. Are you okay? He asked softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I wanted to sink into the floor. I wanted to disappear. I didn't want him to see this, the ugly, pathetic reality of my family. Mr. Johnson turned his head slightly, his gaze finally landing on my father. His eyes were completely devoid of warmth. They were the eyes of a predator looking at an annoying insect. Mr. Lin, Mr. Johnson said, his voice terrifyingly calm. When I agreed to the 50 million transfer, it was a transaction. You delivered a package. The transaction is complete. A package. The word stung, but I kept my face blank. It was the truth, after all. But Mr. Johnson, my dad cried. She's your woman now. Surely her father's peace of mind is worth something to you. Her father, Mr. Johnson interrupted, is a parasite. And I do not negotiate with parasites. He gestured slightly to Adam. Yamaha, show Mr. Lin out. If he ever approaches this property, or contacts Lily again, invoke the clause. What clause? My dad gasped, being dragged backward by Adam's surprisingly strong grip. Mr. Johnson. You can't do this. Lily. Help me. The clause, Mr. Johnson said, his voice echoing in the grand room, that details what happens to people who steal from me. And currently, Mr. Lin, you are stealing my time. With a final, desperate yell, my dad was dragged out of the villa. The heavy oak doors shut with a solid, echoing thud. The silence that followed was heavy. I stood there, staring at the floor, clutching the green alligator bag so hard. My knuckles turned white. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'll leave. You don't have to keep me here. I know my dad is. I know this is a mess. I can take my things and. Before I could finish, Mr. Johnson's hands were on my shoulders. He pulled me forward, burying his face in my hair. He held me so tight I could feel the rapid, powerful beat of his heart. Shut up, he muttered against my temple. Just shut up. But I told you, I don't share my things. And I don't let them go. He pulled back slightly, looking down into my eyes. His expression was a mixture of frustration, possessiveness, and something else, something softer, almost raw. Do you think I care about $5 million? Or 50 million? I could buy your father's debt collectors and have them sweep the streets of the city by tomorrow morning. Then why did you throw him out? Because he made you look like you wanted to cry, Mr. Johnson said, his thumb wiping away a tear I hadn't realized had escaped. And I am the only one allowed to make you cry. My heart hammered. That sounds highly problematic, Mr. Johnson. I am a problematic man, he whispered, before bending down and capturing my Lips. This kiss wasn't like the ones before. It wasn't fierce or punishing. It was slow, deep, and heavy with a silent promise. It tasted of cedar, smoke, and a strange, overwhelming safety that I had never felt in my entire life. When he finally let me go, my knees were shaking. Now, he said, clearing his throat and smoothing down his shirt. Since you refused to buy anything decent today, I have taken the liberty of making a purchase on your behalf. I blinked. What did you buy? Come outside. He led me out to the spacious courtyard at the back of the villa. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden-orange glow over the manicured lawn and the sparkling infinity pool. But my eyes weren't on the sunset. They were locked onto the object sitting in the middle of the driveway. It was a scooter. But it wasn't just any scooter. It was a brand new, top-of-the-line Yamaha electric scooter. However, someone had customized it to a ridiculous degree. The body was painted in a sleek, matte champagne gold. The seat was covered in hand-stitched, caramel-colored Italian leather, the exact same leather as the sofa in the living room. And on the front, where a normal basket would be, was a custom-fitted, gold-plated wire basket designed to hold exactly 4 pairs of packaged underwear and a takeout box. I stared at it, my mouth hanging open. Do you like it? Mr. Johnson asked, standing behind me, his hands resting lightly on my hips. It has leather seats, I whispered. For a scooter. The best Italian leather, he said proudly. And the engine has been tuned. It can reach speeds of 70 miles per hour. Though I've had a speed governor installed so you can't go over 20. I don't need you crashing into a tree. 70 miles per hour on a scooter? I turned to look at him, bewildered. Mr. Johnson, that's not a scooter. That's a land missile. Only the best for my sugar baby, he murmured, his eyes crinkling at the corners. But that's not all. Look inside the basket. I walked over, my sneakers squeaking on the pavement, and reached into the gold-plated basket. Inside was a laminated piece of paper. I picked it up. It was a officially registered delivery driver ID card. It had my photo on it, a slightly blurry picture of me from my ID card, and the name. Lily Lynn, Elite VIP Courier. What is this? I asked. I bought the delivery app you used last night, Mr. Johnson explained. Casually, as if he were talking about buying a cup of coffee. I had my developers create a special, single-user VIP tier. You are currently the only driver in that tier. Your delivery radius is restricted to this villa, and your only customer is me. I stared at the card, then at the golden scooter, then at the multi-billionaire businessman standing before me with a perfectly straight face. You bought a multi-million-dollar tech company, just so I could deliver food. Do you on a scooter? It seemed like the most efficient way to keep you occupied, he said, stepping closer and wrapping his arms around my waist from behind, pulling my back against his chest. And this way, you get your scooter, you get your delivery job, and I get my dinner. It's a win-win. I let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You are completely crazy, Mr. Johnson. I told you, he whispered, his lips brushing against the sensitive skin of my neck, making me shiver. I've got you covered for everything. Even your backup plans. And what if I want to deliver to other people? I teased, leaning back into his warmth. His grip tightened, his voice turning dark and possessive once more. If I see you delivering to anyone else, I'll buy their house and tear it down. Sneaky businessman, I muttered, but I couldn't stop the smile from spreading across my face. 2 weeks passed, and I had officially settled into my new routine as the world's most overqualified, underworked delivery driver. Every afternoon, would put on my bright yellow raincoat, which I insisted on wearing despite the clear blue skies, just to get my money's worth, strap on my high-end delivery backpack, and ride my golden, leather-seated Yamaha scooter down the driveway of the gated community. The security guards eventually stopped saluting me and instead just smiled and waved as I zoomed past at a thrilling 15 miles per hour. My route was always the same, from the local dim sum restaurant, which Mr. Johnson had also bought, just to ensure the food hygiene standards met his approval, to his skyscraper office in the financial district. Today, I was delivering a fresh batch of steamed pork buns. When the luxury van, with Adam at the wheel, followed me at a respectful distance of 20 feet as a safety escort, I felt like a head of state. Yamaha. I yelled back over my shoulder, my helmet visor fogging up. Are you keeping up? Doing my best, miss. Adam called out from the window of the $500,000 van, keeping pace with my leisurely cruise. The engine is handling the low speeds remarkably well. When I arrived at the office headquarters, the receptionist didn't even try to stop me. She simply smiled and buzzed me private access to the executive elevator. I stepped into the elevator, carrying the insulated backpack, my yellow raincoat. Rustling loudly. When the doors opened to the top floor, Mr. Johnson was in the middle of a high-powered meeting with a group of board members. The glass walls of the conference room showed about 20 executives in dark suits, listening intently to a presentation on international market expansions. I hesitated at the elevator doors, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Oh. He's busy. But Mr. Johnson had already seen me. Through the glass, his eyes locked onto mine. He didn't hesitate. He stood up, cutting off the executive who was speaking mid-sentence, and walked out of the conference room. The board members stared after him in absolute shock. "You're late," Mr. Johnson said as he approached me, though his eyes were warm. "The traffic light on 4th Street took forever," I complained, unstrapping the heavy backpack. "And I didn't want the pork buns to get cold, so I took the shortcut through the park." "Did you ride on the pedestrian path again?" "Only a little bit. Nobody was using it anyway." Mr. Johnson took the backpack from me, setting it on his assistant's desk. Then, without warning, he reached out, grabbed my waist, and pulled me into his arms, lifting me slightly off the ground. "Mr. Johnson." I gasped, my face turning bright red as I glanced toward the glass conference room. 20 multimillionaire board members were currently staring at us with wide, horrified eyes. "Everyone is watching." "Let them watch," he murmured, his face burying in the crook of my neck. "They're paid to look at charts. I'm paid to look at you." "That makes no financial sense," I muttered, but I wrapped my arms around his shoulders anyway, enjoying the familiar, comforting scent of him. "How much do I owe you for the delivery?" he asked, pulling back slightly, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "The total is $15.50, I said primly. Plus, a standard tip." Mr. Johnson reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and handed me a crisp, $100 bill. "Keep the change," he said. I stared at the $100 bill, then looked up at him with narrow, suspicious eyes. "Mr. Johnson, this is a violation of the app's terms of service. Over-tipping can lead to account suspension." He let out a loud, booming laugh, a sound that made several of the executives in the conference room flinch in surprise. He cupped my face in his hands, planting a hard, passionate kiss on my lips. "Then suspend me," he whispered against my mouth. "But you're still coming home with me tonight." I smiled, my heart full and warm, feeling the steady, solid weight of his arms around me. 30 days, I had thought at the beginning. Just 30 days. But as I looked into his eyes, filled with a fierce, unwavering devotion that had nothing to do with contracts or money, I realized something. I was never going to need that backup plan. My golden Yamaha scooter was beautiful, but the man holding me was the only ride I ever wanted to take. A month later, a small, slightly crumpled postcard arrived at the villa. It was addressed to me, written in messy, hurried handwriting that I recognized instantly. "Dear Lily, I'm doing well. I ended up in a small coastal town. It's quiet here. I sold the electric scooter for $300, sorry about that, but the battery was dying anyway, and started a small flower shop by the beach. I heard Dad's debt was paid off. I'm sorry I ran away and left you to deal with it, but I knew you were always the smart one. And honestly, I knew Mr. Johnson would never have liked me anyway. I heard he's completely whipped by some mysterious delivery girl in a yellow raincoat. Be happy, Lily. I'm finally happy too. Love, your sister." I sat on the golden, leather-seated scooter in the driveway, holding the postcard, a small smile playing on my lips. "What's that?" Mr. Johnson's voice sounded behind me. I quickly tucked the postcard into my pocket. "Nothing. Just a delivery notification." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder as we both looked out at the sprawling, beautiful city below us. "Are we going somewhere?" he asked. "Yes," I said, twisting the handle of the golden scooter, making the engine hum with quiet, powerful energy. "We have a delivery to make." "To where?" "To the future," I said, looking back at him with a grin. "And don't worry, boss. I've got you covered for everything."